We've all heard of taphophobia, but we may not all know exactly what it is. Taphophobia derives from the Greek word taphos, which means grave. It is the fear of being buried alive. Being buried alive may seem like an unreasonable fear today, but it wasn't always so. Modern times, knowledge, and technology take the guesswork out of telling whether or not someone has passed on. But it wasn't always like that. You may be surprised to discover that many people you've learned about in your history class suffer from taphophobia. The famous composer Frederick Chopin had taphophobia. Perhaps more famously, George Washington suffered from taphophobia. That's right, the seemingly fearless commander of the Continental Army was afraid of being buried alive. In fact, Washington was so afraid of being buried alive, he ordered to have his deceased body be laid out for 3 days just to ensure that he was really dead. Imagine the paranoia Martha must have felt, unsure if her husband was deceased or just unconscious. As extreme as this may seem, it's nothing compared to what writer Hans Christian Andersen and businessman Alfred Nobel requested. They wanted their veins to be opened after they seemingly passed to make sure they indeed died. As morbid and out of touch as these things appear, they were a reality for people of that time. A common practice was to wrap individuals in canvas and bury them in a cave. A few days later, someone would check to make sure they weren't still alive. Sometimes they were. Now this fear had to be something reserved to just the 1800s and earlier, right? Wrong. Though there is no way to be certain what diseases a person in the 19th century and before had, typhoid could be the culprit for at least some. Typhoid causes the pulse to become very slow. In 1915, S.E. Dunbar suffered an epileptic attack and was pronounced dead. At the funeral, Dunbar's sister arrived just as they lowered the coffin. They agreed to raise the coffin so her sister could see her one last time. And lucky for Dunbar, that is. As the screws were removed and the coffin's lid opened, Essie sat up in her coffin and smiled. The mourners, including Essie's sister, believed she was a ghost and ran screaming. Have you ever heard anyone say the funeral business is a money-making business? Perhaps this is where it all started. Inventors saw an opportunity to capitalize on people's fears with safety coffins. Some were above-ground tombs with a hatch. The buried alive would be able to unscrew the hatch when they woke up. More famously were coffins attached to an above-ground bell the person could ring if they woke up. Others were connected to above-ground tubes that allowed gravediggers to check on the bodies. So while times have changed drastically and being buried alive is not something we commonly hear about, you just may have had an ancestor or two that shared George Washington's fear. And when a first world problem seems just too unbearable, remember how lucky we are to be living in a time where you don't have to worry about being buried alive. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and if you're not part of the Gold Team already, I would love to have you here, and you can do so by clicking the icon to the right of me. I promise you it's fun, we have a good time here, and if you're just wanting to watch more paranormal content, I have a few videos linked down below for you guys.